goes. We'll see. But as far as things go for HuShang, this is his only chance here to stay alive now, because it is a best of 3, which does make game 2 match point.
Yep, and there is still of course, this is still group stages of the rival StarCraft League, so that means that there is a loser's match, but this is still a very important game. Going out number 1 in your group, that is the number 1 thing you could ask for moving into the group.
All right, so let's talk about the players and where they are. This is going to be the green Protoss on the bottom right-hand side of Echo LE. He's down 0-1 here and needs to win this to be able to survive and play in an ace match, guys. So we do have here playing for Fragger Esports. It's HuShang.
And his opponent spawning up at the top left-hand corner of the map. We got the red Protoss player representing Team Spectre and currently up 1-0 in this best of 3. It is KellerMaN. How do you suppose someone comes up with the name KellerMaN?
You know, I was just thinking about that when we were trying to load into game 1, and I don't know. It seems like a person's last name, but it's obviously not
right?
his, considering that he's Korean.
Yeah. I mean, maybe this is like a little bit of a history on my life, and I grew up in a very Asian-oriented culture. I grew up in the Bay Area, so I would find it. I actually did. Yeah. Wait. Did you?
Me too.
Are you in the Bay Area? What?
Yeah.
Okay, we're gonna talk about this later, Droopy. All right, I want to finish. Let me finish my story, okay? No, but like it's really interesting because I would sometimes occasionally come across the Asians that had like very, very Americanized names, and it was sort of interesting how that would play out. So I'm wondering if this is kind of the equivalent of that. Like he picked a very Americanized names. He's playing so much in the American server and the American scene. It's like KellerMaN. Awesome, I'm gonna fit in just fine.
Oh yeah, and then you look at HuShang. Sounds pretty Asian, right? But the dude's actually French-Canadian.
Oh yeah.
And I actually read this on his stream profile once. He explained that the name he chose sounded Asian. It's not even an Asian person in history. It's actually like a Persian general or something. It's not even
actually Asian.
Yeah, it's not
He found
Chinese
that out after
like
he
that.
came up with the name. Actually, he told me about this one. I did an interview with him on my show, Breaking Out. But he said that it was a name that he came up with, Silk Road Online, and he chose like the Asian faction, and he wanted to have an Asian sounding name, so he came up with that name. And later it turned out that he was like, oh, this is like a really awesome like general that such and such like is super duper awesome. He was like, yeah, it works out, so I stuck with it. But yeah, it's kind of cool how like people come up with their names.
Yeah. So, well, what are both of these guys coming up with here in their openings?
Not proxies, I'll tell you that.
Not proxies, yeah. Last game we had that, but this time around, not quite yet. Looks like both players are just going to go ahead and start Warp Gate research first, although we should be seeing some tech structures coming down very soon.
Yeah, I mean, both of them are mining their gas and everything, so it makes sense. Yeah. And we end up having both of them going down with Stargate and Twilight Council.
So this is almost, you know, building for building, the same as last game. It's just the position that's different, of course.
Yeah, I'll also say, though, that KellerMaN's Stargate last game was much earlier on, because you have to consider how early he sent out that probe to make sure that like the pylon was down in time, to make sure that the Stargate was down very, very early on, cutting like other things like delaying warp gate and all that kind of stuff. You make a lot of really big investments into that, and it puts you behind in other ways. This game, this is like I'm gonna open Stargate. This isn't gonna Stargate in your face build.
Yeah, I mean, you know, the way KellerMaN opened last game, like he had to do damage, right? And he got it done. Yeah. So that's why, you know, he's in a good spot. But this time around, you know, he doesn't have to do damage, although it would be lovely, no question about it. So let's see if he can. He's making his Oracle right now. HuShang, he learned his lesson last time. Has his Stalkers already there. 2 of them, in fact, not just 1. And because the Oracle is going to come slightly later, he is going to be in a better position to defend so long as his units aren't gone. And the other thing, too, last game is HuShang got a little fancy with his Mothership Core, and then when he had to spend the energy to recall, he didn't have Photon Overcharge to defend. This time he will. So I think he's going to be a lot better off here in game number 2.
Oh, that's assuming that these stalkers aren't just on the other side of the map. He's gearing up for the aggression. Oh, this is a little bit painful. If you consider the timing that the Oracle came in last time, it was a solid like 20-ish seconds earlier. So he's thinking like, okay, well, it's past the time of the Oracle coming. Oh, God, and there it is. But Photon Overcharge available this time. Still going to lose some probes. And Blink is not finished up, but he doesn't need it.
Yeah, he's able to kill off the Oracle this time as well. Losing just 4 workers, slightly less than last time, but still a sizable chunk, I have to say.
I really think that, okay, again, this is a similar-ish situation to last time. The only difference is KellerMaN knows what HuShang is up to right now, so he's going straight up to the Immortal. He's not going for the Observer this time. But I still feel like HuShang has a window of opportunity to do some damage if he gets aggressive, and after seeing the expansion, I think he definitely is.
Yeah, if he can force a cancellation on this Nexus, that's going to be a huge victory for him. Can he do it? It's going to be close. He does have Blink. Oh, he blinks in the Immortal. He's going to target down the Immortal. That's big right there. And now KellerMaN's down with only 2 Stalkers.
Oh my God, Blink's going to be on cooldown again. He's going to snipe on those guys as well. Kills off the Sentry. Photon Overcharge gets forced. That's totally okay. These are enough of Stalkers that he can continue to move in. He's going to take out that much core. Blink out, finish off this Nexus, and continue to warp in. Now, there might be another Immortal or so coming out for KellerMaN, but KellerMaN already lost so many units. He's going to be crippled moving into the later stages.
Yeah, I think if HuShang can even force the cancellation on this Nexus, I'd say this has been a job well done. He's close. Oh, not quite getting it.
You know, Droopy, when the Nexus is that low, you have to think as KellerMaN, do I just cancel this? Do I really want a Nexus like this? Should I just restart it?
Oh. He's not, so...
Yeah, he's committed to this defense, man.
Yeah, HuShang's out for blood here. He really is gonna... He's got to be dying to kill this Nexus right now.
He's not expanding.
Bringing some more Stalkers.
He's chrono boosting his warp gates. Droopy, this is all in from HuShang.
Oh, yeah.
But I think that it's really important that he hits immediately, like right now with this warping of Stalkers, because once the Immortal count goes up to 2, it gets a little bit awkward. Once it goes up to 3, you really start questioning, can you make this work still?
Oh, but it's still 1 right here.
Well done.
It gets targeted down immediately.
Calls off the Observer.
Yeah, that too as well.
That second Immortal, though, is doing a lot of damage. He's blinking back his Stalkers. Blinks forward and comes back in with some of those Stalkers that were a little bit weaker. This is coming a little bit closer than I think HuShang really wanted it to.
Yeah, and this is, you know what, with the Mothership Core gone for KellerMaN, this is where he's going to regret that because he could have used Photon Overcharge here. But you know what? Defender's advantage still helping him out here as he does warp in some more Stalkers. And he's able to hold off for now.
Yeah, I'm liking this situation more and more for KellerMaN because it's not just some idle Nexus that he's trying to defend, you know, for glory or whatever. He's mining from it. He's actually getting value from it. He's also sitting at a higher than normal like saturation for 1 base play. He's at 27 probes. And the longer this game goes on, the better of a situation he's going to be in.
Yeah, absolutely, because the Immortal count's going to start increasing here as HuShang has to look for other ways to attack. Looks like he wants to blink into the main.
I like this choice. He's killed off his opponent's Observer, and look at how out of position this army is. He can take out this Immortal, maybe go after their box. I don't know if he'll have time to do both, but still, taking out an Immortal almost for free. Loses a Stalker, might lose a second one. Still a good trade.
Yeah, and he's able to get the rest of the Stalkers away. But HuShang, is he going to transition out of this? He can get the Nexus. He's going to get it.
That is so good. That is very, very important for him. But is it enough right now? Because KellerMaN still has a decently sized army, still has a couple of Immortals around, and HuShang is still not expanding.
Yeah, well, now he does, and HuShang is going to see that as his cue to leave.
Oh, Droopy, do you see what I see? Do you see a Sentry with this force of Stalkers? You know what this smells to me like? It smells to me like he wanted to set up Contain, but looks like KellerMaN does move down. There's still an opportunity. If HuShang is really, really cheeky about this, he can try and get an Observer out on the map again, blink up into the main base, force KellerMaN back in, and then just force field the ramp, blink back down, kill off the Nexus again. There's all kinds of cheeky stuff you can do with a Sentry and a bunch of Blink Stalkers.
I feel like that's going to take too long, though, at this point now. I mean, the Mortal did just get recreated for HuShang, but it's got to fly all the way over there, and then by the time that happens, KellerMaN's going to have some more units. But you're right, though. That would have been, oh man, that would have been such a
that would have been beautiful
HuShang to pull off, completely flipping this game on its head. But for now, we'll just have to settle with an earlier natural, and I think that's not bad considering what happened early game.
Yeah, and I've got to say, even though KellerMaN seemed to be in a much more dominant position throughout almost the entirety of last game, this game, HuShang seems to be in control. And even though he might not have the same immortal count, he might not have the same scary army that KellerMaN does, HuShang has been doing such a great job with these stalkers. Look at, this is normally something you'd say like, oh man, it's a bad thing that these stalkers have low hit points all around. No, that's a sign of how active he's been, how many units he's been picking off. I just actually want to take a look at the units lost tab, the resources lost. HuShang is actually ahead by a pretty decent bit, like a solid 1,200-ish minerals. As long as he doesn't lose the stalkers over here, he loses a couple over here, but he's just been really cost effective.
Yeah, absolutely. And the way we see HuShang playing this game is so much different from last game. I'm not just talking about him being, a little more ahead and doing more damage. I'm also talking about him seeming a little more comfortable. Like this is more of his kind of game. Last game, he just sort of felt anxious, like I have to push now, even though it still wasn't a good time and wasn't well executed. This time he doesn't have to make those kinds of decisions. He just needs to sit back and let the macro take over. He's already into Colossus now, something that KellerMaN has yet to do himself.
Yeah, HuShang has really shown that he likes to go for the faster Colossus, at least between these two past games. And that can be a bit of a dangerous thing if HuShang is also going to lead into, say, doing another really quick 2 to 3 Colossus push-out, regardless of what his opponent has. He has to be very, very careful about how he does this. He doesn't want to repeat any sort of mistakes that he made last game.
Yeah, absolutely. And, part of him could feel like, well, I'm ahead here, so it's kind of on you to maybe attack me first, right? But you know what? KellerMaN is actually caught up in the probing. If you take a look at that, he's up 95, 92. And it's not too big of a difference when it comes to the economy.
Yeah, I don't really think that it's necessarily HuShang or KellerMaN being super ahead of either one of each other. At this stage in the game, I think that it evens out pretty quickly. But it's just the fact that HuShang is a little bit further ahead on the Colossus production that I really like, and I really just want to see him carry that out to a 5 or 6 Colossus stage, and then start thinking about transitioning after maybe doing a little bit of poking and prodding. I don't want to see him go heavily committing just because he has 3 Colossus versus 2 Colossus. Because by the time you move across the map, your opponent's going to have that extra Colossus. You're going to be on an evened up count.
Yeah, and then we can't forget either that even though HuShang does have a slight advantage on Colossi, he doesn't when it comes to Immortals. There are plenty more Immortals for KellerMaN at this point, and they're pretty tanky. They can absorb some of those Colossi rays. I mean, there is a point where there's just too many Colossus, and then the Immortals kind of get, their benefits are really outweighed by the amount of Colossus your opponent has. But right now, looking at this attack HuShang wants to make, I'm not sure that this is going to be enough.
Oh, this is going to get really, really awkward for HuShang. The retreat path is going to be super awkward, and the Immortal is just going to be able to deal out a lot of damage. I like the reinforcements of Zells coming in for HuShang, but I mean, these Immortals are just going to absolutely wreck anything HuShang has. HuShang does not come out on the better end of that.
No, not at all. And you were totally right about the retreat path. I mean, just in my experience playing on this map, it's so awkward. You have these blocks that you have to break, and the walking around is strange, and it's just it was very risky for HuShang to do that, and he did come out losing a little more.
Yeah, he's not down and out by any means. I mean, if you can just muster up a decent enough army and keep an eye on his opponent, the biggest thing, of course, being that when you defend, you want to make sure your army is in position to defend. I think he's going to be fine to transition on the later stages of the game. Both these players throwing down their second robotic facilities. But I have a question. Droopy, how do you feel about Tempest transitions in the later stages of PvP now? Just because it's so funny because the Tempest aren't what they used to be. They don't do that extra damage versus Colossus anymore.
Yeah, they don't, and it's always it's so tricky to decide when it is the right time to transition. Because because you transition too early and you don't have enough Tempests to really be able to defend against your opponent, and then you're in a lot of trouble, right? So I don't know if either of these guys will be making that move soon. But, you know, another thing I wanted to kind of think about was, you know, when HuShang made that attack, do you think he should have waited for +2? Because I feel like he is slightly ahead on the upgrades, and he would have maybe had an advantage during that battle if he was +2 and KellerMaN's still on +1. But he kind of made his move perhaps a little too soon.
It's, you know, it's definitely a question that is worth asking, but I would say it's worth asking from the perspective of HuShang, who doesn't have the vision we do. From the vision that we have, and like having seen KellerMaN's army before HuShang did, I don't think it would have mattered. There were just way too many Immortals and Zealots and just beefy Colossus. There's just too much with a weird engagement angle. I don't think it would have worked out even with +2 weapons. I think that I really just like the fact that HuShang just kind of ended up pulling back, even if it was a little bit after a bit of a weird push-in, and just started macroing up. And he got an earlier 4th expansion up. He's gotten to a fairly decent Colossus count, a little bit lacking on the gateway units and maybe even the Immortal count. But I love the follow-up. I really, really love Stargate follow-ups of not just like Tempest, but Void Rays. Void Ray follow-ups in PvP are unbelievably underrated sometimes by those who don't really, really know late-game PvP.
Yeah, sometimes it's easy to forget that, you know, they can be pretty powerful, especially if your opponent kind of sleeps on that possibility, right? They just crank out all ground-only units.
Yeah, look at KellerMaN's army, okay? Let's look at the unit count. Look at the units tab, okay? Here is the list of units that can attack air units. 2 Stalkers, 2 Sentries, and as of like 10 seconds ago, 2 Archons. You get out 6, 7 Void Rays, and those Stalkers are just gonna die immediately to the Colossus, right? They're gonna be dead very, very quickly. You can murder things, and oh my god! Oh, that's snipe, but he loses a lot? I don't actually know who came out better on that.
Oh, he didn't lose much at all. He did not lose much at all. It was totally worth it, and then just zap recall back home. We're seeing HuShang try to do a little counter-attacking here on both sides. Some Zealots running by on that third. HuShang trying to position his Colossus here into a concave. You might see that big engagement here, and, well, a lot of times these determine who wins the game.
Oh, that time warp! That is enough to move in! Oh, Droopy, you could not ask for a better time warp. He is going to be moving in, and the Void Ray is going to be able to do massive amounts of damage. Even though these Immortals or KellerMaN are doing a lot, I think that HuShang might have enough to make something happen over here. I want to also note that those Zealots completely cleaned up the 3rd expansion during this.
Oh, yeah, that's... Yeah, that attack, those Zealots completely caught KellerMaN off guard, no question about it. I mean, KellerMaN did win the battle at the 4th, but what he lost at the 3rd may just give HuShang a fighting chance here. I think one big thing is that HuShang, again, did he attack before +3 finished? I think he did.
It's
he has +3 now.
Yeah. I think that it may have finished right before the attack, just because I remember him being like a good bit further ahead of KellerMaN when he was KellerMaN was like still getting +2 and he was like starting +3 or something. So I think that he's had it, but yeah.
KellerMaN had +1 armor at the time. I know for a fact he was ahead on upgrades. So either they were even on +2 or HuShang wasn't even on +. Yeah, I don't think HuShang had +3 during the attack. I feel like he was down an upgrade.
That's a pretty big deal. But
yeah,
the Zealot run-by stuff that HuShang is doing is working out so well. And the best part about this, I want to know, is not just, oh man, I'm doing damage with these Zealots. It's actually, you have to react. You can't just warp in a couple of Zealots and be okay. You've got to react with your army, and that gives my army an opportunity to pick apart your other base. He doesn't move in. I feel like that was a bit of a missed opportunity. He had the entire army pulled out of position. That would have been a great snipe-off opportunity on that 4th.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I mean, manipulating your opponent is a huge thing, especially when you can sort of make them play into your hands. But like you said, HuShang couldn't quite take advantage of that. But
KellerMaN, though. Oh my god, these Zealots in the bottom left? Jeez.
That's a lot.
That's a lot of Zealots.
But what are they looking for exactly? What are they going to find? The 4th, there's no base down in the bottom center quite yet. But they will find some pilots.
They're just looking for a good time, man, and the good time is going to be, it seems to be, with the rest of KellerMaN's army. We're been at the point for a while where producing more Colossus is not super beneficial for KellerMaN. HuShang, it's kind of a weird situation where I think he can use more Colossus, but I, again, really wouldn't hate to just see him make more Void Rays. He's gotten 5 Void Rays, I think like 7 or 8. He can just try and take out the Archons, and then there's nothing. There's literally nothing to stop the Void Rays from killing every one of these Colossus.
Ooh, that was it. Oh, look at that. Did you see that Colossus stutter step there?
You know what? Some Colossus, they gotta get their groove on, man. Some gotta pop, lock, and pop. Pop, lock, and pop.
Not sure what quite to make of that. And the funny thing is, too, sometimes those weird, like, physics... strange reactions with units. You watch the replay, it's different. It's not the same thing every time.
It's a randomized like projectiles and locations and be really careful of it. Oh, the engagement angle again is going to be so unbelievably important, and you do not want to be caught like retreating.
DTs. KellerMaN has been really seeing this base cleaned out time and time again, and he's just lost every single probe here. I don't think he has any choice but to engage now with this.
He has to engage. And look at this concave from HuShang. HuShang could not ask for a better concave, but the Zells are getting on top of the Colossus. This is actually not what HuShang was wanting over here. The Void Rays are gonna go mostly uncontested, but that is just too much.
Oh man. Yeah. That was a numbers battle right there at the very end. More Colossus for KellerMaN just made it easy for him. GG.
I think, you know, it wasn't just the Colossus count. I think it also had to do a lot with the fact that as soon as those Zealots are able to get on top of HuShang's Colossus, because there was no ground-soaking force to eat up those Zealots to stop them from like really messing with the AI for the Colossus, I really think that was the biggest factor in that game. There wasn't enough meat or beef behind HuShang's army. I want to say that's the feeling that I got from that engagement.
Yeah, I think that's fair to say as well. And because of that, KellerMaN is now going to be able to move on, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, gonna move on to that winners match. 2-0 victory, easy peasy, man. Just forget that entire like early game awkwardness of like my Nexus has been sitting at 20 health or whatever for solid couple of minutes and this Blink Stalker aggression. Forget all that, man. KellerMaN wasn't worried at all. He was totally fine, and he's gonna move on and end up playing versus the winner of the next match, PandaBearMe versus Gamja.
Oh yeah, it's going to be another mirror match, ZVZ, and we know how crazy back and forth those games can be. So it'll be very exciting to see who's going to be having the upper hand there. And of course, doesn't hurt that Gamja is my teammate.
I'm not going to lie, and this is no bias, because don't worry, he's not my teammate. I could talk about him without talking biasly. Not that you would, I'm just kidding. But
oh no, I'm hard on my teammates. I can ask anybody.
You're biased in the opposite direction that everyone would anticipate you to be. But I really do think that Gamja is going to be a very clear favorite moving into this. I'm a big PandaBearMe fan. He's been on a show that I've done called Breaking Out, similar to HuShang, and I've been able to like really look into his playstyle and everything, but Gamja has just been an absolute beast for a very long time, going back from Team IVD and now on Team Gravity. He has just been a consistent Korean force in the North American scene that just tears people apart. People can't handle him. This guy is actually nearly all killed Team Root.
Yeah, and you know, after IVD disbanded, he kind of took a short break from the game for Season 1, but he's back and he's been on fire. He's top 30 GM on Korea right now. He's laddered over 900 games there. So people have been sleeping on him, but he's looking to make some noise here, and well, this is a great opportunity for him to show his stuff.
Yeah, fantastic opportunity to just get some of that free cash money, man. Sometimes you just gotta beat down those foreigners, but I bet you know what, PandaBearMe, he has a good amount of experience. He's been playing it for a while now. And he's actually a very aggressive Zerg. So I'm interested to see what PandaBearMe is going to have in store for us. I believe in the past he he has a very interesting story with ZVZ. Now, some of this information might be a little bit out of date because I haven't seen as much of PandaBearMe ZVZ lately. But he used to be this player that was like, okay, you know what? ZVZ, forget Mutals. I'm gonna go roaches all the time, just only roaches. And then later on, he was kind of like, okay, you know what? I've been going only roaches. I feel so good when it's roach versus roach, and sometimes roach versus muta. But sometimes my opponents start to end up hard countering, blah, blah, blah. Or, like they just kind of blind counter you if you're always doing the same thing. So he said, okay, I'll start opening up Mutals. And he only opened Mutals. And eventually he kind of reserved back, and now he's gotten to a really, really good point where he just plays very, very adaptive to whatever he finds his opponent. And this is most relevant in like a best of X series, not just like laddering. But in a best of X series, he can kind of play around. He can try out the mass roach. He can try out the Mutals openings, see what his opponent struggles with the most, and then go with that from there. He has a lot of experience with both of the styles.
And you know what? One thing that he may have going for him here in this matchup is that Gamja is self-proclaimed, ZVZ is his worst matchup. He said that. And, if that's the case, then PandaBearMe certainly has an opportunity here. And you also consider, too, the potential for, Gamja playing on a server, NA server right now, which may not, give him that advantage when it comes to lag or ping. So,
yeah,
can't count PandaBearMe out. He's been around the block, and ZVZs a lot of times can go either way.
It definitely can. The way that I would describe it, and it's been described this way many, many a time, is ZVZ is like a knife fight where neither of you are allowed to move your feet. It is just absolutely scary. It's brutal, and eventually, if you can make through, like, I don't know, the knife fight goes on for like 5 minutes, and people are just like, okay,